The bedroom door swung open with a soft click. Amara Okonkwo stood frozen in the doorway of her own bedroom. Her hands trembled, her MS bag slipping from her fingers and hitting the floor with a dull thud. "Chidi?" Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. Her husband spun around, his face draining of color. Behind him, their housemaid Ngozi scrambled to pull the bedsheet around herself, mascara streaking down her tear-stained face. But it wasn't what Amara expected to see. Not at all. Chidi wasn't undressed. He was fully clothed, sitting on the edge of the bed, holding Ngozi's hand. Between them, on the nightstand, lay a pregnancy test, positive, and an open laptop displaying bank statements. Amara's bank statements. "Amara, I can explain," Chidi started, his voice shaking. "Explain?" Amara's shock transformed into something sharper, more dangerous. "You'd better make it good, because what I'm looking at right now is about to cost you everything." Before we continue, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps stories like this alive. Every time you subscribe, you help us share more hope, more courage, more love. Now, let's continue. Amara Okonkwo hadn't been born into wealth. She'd built her empire from scratch, a pharmaceutical company called Okonkwo Care that had gone from a small chemist shop in Sulueri to a multi-billion-naira enterprise in just 9 years. While her competitors had inherited their wealth or married into it, Amara had earned every naira through sleepless nights, rejected loans, and sheer determination that made competitors nervous. Her corner office on the 40th floor of Echo Tower overlooked Victoria Island like a throne room. At 38 years old, she was one of Nigeria's most respected businesswomen, featured in Forbes Africa and courted by international investors who'd initially doubted an African woman could build such an empire. Chidi Obi had entered her life at a business conference in Abuja 3 years ago. Charming, supportive, with an engineering degree from the University of Lagos and big dreams but limited capital. He'd worked as a civil engineer, made decent money, but nothing compared to Amara's net worth. She'd been hesitant at first. Experience had taught her that Nigerian men often struggled with successful women, their egos bruised by a woman's financial superiority. But Chidi seemed different. He celebrated her success, never competed with her, made her laugh after 18-hour workdays, rubbed her feet when she came home exhausted from board meetings. He seemed genuinely proud to be her partner, not threatened by her achievements. They'd married within a year, a beautiful ceremony at Echo Hotel with Lagos's elite in attendance. No excessive show, just elegant sophistication and two people who claimed to love each other deeply. Or so she thought. Ngozi Eze had come into their household 8 months after the wedding. 23, from a struggling family in Enugu with good references from a family friend and a gentle, respectful spirit. In her line of work, Amara needed someone trustworthy. Someone who wouldn't sell stories to blog or leak sensitive business information to competitors. Ngozi seemed perfect. Quiet, hardworking, grateful for the opportunity to work in a prestigious household. Amara treated her well, paid 50,000 naira monthly, far above market rate, gave her a comfortable room with an ensuite bathroom, encouraged her to take online courses to improve her skills. Amara had grown up poor in Ajegunle. She remembered what it felt like to be invisible, to serve people who looked through you like glass, who treated you as less than human. But generosity, as Amara was about to learn in the most devastating way possible, could be misunderstood for weakness. And trust, once given freely, could become a weapon in the wrong hands. The first sign came during a business trip to Accra. Amara had been finalizing a major deal with a Ghanaian distribution network when her phone buzzed with an alert from her financial monitoring app, something she'd personally set up after watching a colleague lose millions to identity theft and fraud. Transfer 2 million naira to Chidi Obi personal account. Amara frowned, her attention momentarily pulled from the presentation before her. They had a joint account for household expenses, but this was from her primary business account. Chidi had access for emergencies, but 2 million naira seemed excessive for any household emergency. She made a mental note to ask him about it when she returned to Lagos. But, exhausted from intense negotiations and multiple meetings, she forgot. 2 weeks later, another alert buzzed during a board meeting. 3.5 million naira. This time, Amara didn't forget. That night, she dug deeper, pulling transaction history she usually left to her accountant to review. What she found made her blood run cold and her hands shake with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Over the past 4 months, Chidi had transferred nearly 18 million naira from her account. Always varying amounts, never enough to trigger automatic fraud alerts from the bank, but together forming a clear pattern of systematic theft. The money went to his personal account, then disappeared into cash withdrawals and transfers she couldn't immediately trace. Amara sat in her home office at midnight, the glow of her laptop illuminating her face as years of trust and love crumbled around her like a house built on sand. She could confront him immediately, scream, throw him out, call the police. But Amara hadn't built a billion-naira pharmaceutical empire by acting on raw emotion. She'd built it by gathering evidence, calculating risks, anticipating her opponent's moves, and striking decisively when they least expected it. She hired a private investigator, a former State Security Service operative named Kunle, discreet and expensive, with connections throughout Lagos's underground information network. Within 1 week, he delivered a troubling report that raised more questions than it answered. Chidi had been meeting Ngozi regularly at different bukas, cafes, and quiet restaurants across Lagos, Ikeja, Yaba, even as far as Aja. Always cash payments to avoid electronic trails. Never physically intimate in public, nothing that definitively suggested a romantic affair. But they talked for hours, always with Chidi's phone face down on the table, always choosing corner seats with clear views of entrances and exits, exhibiting behavior consistent with people hiding something significant. Kona's conclusion in his professional assessment: either they are planning something major or they are already executing it. My professional guess: the maid is pregnant and your husband is paying her off quietly to avoid scandal. Alternative theory: they are working together to systematically drain your accounts before disappearing, possibly to another country. Keep watching them, Amara had said coldly, her voice carrying none of the emotional devastation churning inside her. I want to know everything, every meeting, every conversation you can overhear, every transaction, everything. Amara announced a business trip to South Africa, a week-long pharmaceutical conference in Johannesburg with potential investors from across the continent. She made absolutely certain that both Chidi and Ngozi heard her discussing flight times, hotel details, and her packed itinerary of meetings. She even left for the airport with her assistant, kissing Chidi goodbye at the door, his lips tasting of lies she could now recognize but had been blind to for months. But instead of boarding the South African Airways flight, Amara checked into Echo Hotels and Suites, just 3 blocks from her mansion in Ikoyi. From her suite, she watched security camera feeds from her home on her tablet. Cameras she'd installed 2 years ago for security purposes, but never imagined she'd use to spy on her own husband and employee. For 2 agonizing days, nothing unusual happened. Chidi worked from his home office, attended virtual meetings, behaved normally. Ngozi cleaned, cooked Chidi's meals, maintained the household routine with her usual efficiency. Amara almost wondered if she had gotten it wrong, if paranoia and suspicion had finally infected her usually rational mind like a virus. Then on the 3rd night around 9 p.m., Ngozi knocked softly on Chidi's study door. Amara couldn't hear the audio. She'd never activated sound recording out of respect for privacy. she now deeply regretted granting. But she watched them talk intensely, watched Ngozi suddenly start crying, her shoulders shaking with sobs, watched Chidi stand and put his hands around her shoulders in what looked like comfort. 20 tense minutes later, they moved together to the master bedroom, Amara's bedroom, the bed she'd imported from Italy. That's when Amara called her driver with shaking hands and headed home, her heart pounding with betrayal and rage, preparing herself for the confrontation that would change everything. Now standing in that doorway with her world tilting sideways and years of trust shattered, Amara waited for the explanation that would either destroy her marriage forever or reveal something she couldn't yet imagine. Chidi stood slowly, hands raised defensively, like she was pointing a loaded gun directly at him. "Amara, please, just listen to me." "I'm listening." Her voice was pure ice, controlled and deadly. "You have exactly 60 seconds before I call the police and report you for embezzlement and whatever this is. 59, 58. Chidi blurted out desperately, "The baby isn't mine." Amara's mental countdown stopped abruptly. "What?" Ngozi sobbed even harder, and now Amara noticed crucial details she'd missed in her initial shock and anger. The girl looked absolutely terrified, but not guilty. "Tell her," Chidi said gently to Ngozi, his voice carrying none of the panic from moments before. "Tell her everything, or I will. You're safe now. Madame won't let him hurt you anymore. I promise you that." Through tears, Ngozi's story spilled out in a torrent of pain. The father of her baby was Emeka Uchenna, Amara's business partner, the chief operating officer of Okonkwo Care Pharmaceuticals, her trusted friend and colleague of 8 years. Emeka, who was married with 4 children and a reputation as a devoted family man. Emeka, who had been systematically assaulting Ngozi for 6 months, using his position of power and her vulnerable immigration and employment status to ensure her terrified silence. "He said if I tell anybody, he would destroy me completely," Ngozi whispered, her voice breaking. "He said nobody go ever believe common house girl over big man like him. He said Madame trust am well, say you no fit ever believe me. He threatened say he go make sure I return to village with nothing." Amara felt the room spin violently around her. "And the money, all those transfers." Chidi ran a trembling hand through his hair. "I've been helping her, Amara, saving money so she could live safely, get her own place, hire a proper immigration lawyer to fix her status. I couldn't use our joint account. You would see the transactions immediately and ask questions. I didn't know how to tell you without..." He trailed off helplessly. "Without making me think you were having an affair with our housemaid," Amara finished numbly, her legs suddenly weak. She looked at the laptop screen more carefully now, seeing what she'd missed in her initial rage. Not just bank statements, legal documents, visa applications, rental agreement in Ngozi's name for a small apartment in Lekki Phase 1, consultation notes from immigration lawyers. "I found out 2 months ago," Chidi continued, his voice heavy with the burden he'd been carrying. "I came home early from a site inspection and heard her crying in her room. She told me everything, every horrible detail. I wanted to tell you immediately, confront Emeka, go to the police. But Amara, she was absolutely petrified. She genuinely thought you'd blame her, fire her immediately, let Emeka destroy her life completely." He met his wife's eyes with painful honesty. "I've watched you operate in business mode for 3 years. You're absolutely brilliant, but you're also ruthless when you feel betrayed. I was terrified you wouldn't believe her word over Emeka's." Amara sank into the bedside chair, her legs no longer able to support her weight. Emeka Uchenna, her partner, her friend, the man who'd stood beside her through hostile investors who openly said women couldn't run pharmaceutical companies. The man who'd given an emotional speech at her wedding about partnership and trust. The man she trusted with her company's operations and her professional reputation. a monster who'd been hiding in plain sight, wearing the mask of respectability and friendship. "I'm so sorry, Ma," Ngozi whispered desperately. "I go pack my things and leave now. I never want to cause problem for you." "You're not going anywhere," Amara said. Amara Okonkwo didn't waste precious time on tears or self-pity. She had a company to protect, employees depending on her, and a predator to remove from power. First, she had Ngozi file a comprehensive police report at the gender unit, with Amara's personal lawyers accompanying her, the most aggressive and expensive legal firm in Lagos, utterly unafraid of powerful men or their connections. Then, she activated something few people knew existed, a comprehensive digital surveillance system within Okonkwo Care, installed after a devastating corporate espionage attempt 3 years earlier. Every company email, every internal message, every file accessed or transferred, all meticulously logged and archived on secure servers. What her IT security team found made Amara physically sick. Ngozi wasn't Emeka's only victim. Over the past 6 years, there had been 4 other women, junior employees from vulnerable backgrounds, who'd mysteriously left the company after short tenures, their departures unexplained and unquestioned. Emeka had been careful, using personal devices for most communication, but he'd made one critical, arrogant mistake. He'd used company resources to investigate these women, accessing their confidential HR files, their personal documents, their immigration status, using his senior position to gather ammunition for coercion and control. Every single access was logged with timestamps, digital evidence that couldn't be denied or explained away. But Amara's legal team discovered something even worse during their deep investigation. "Mrs. Okonkwo," her lead attorney said gravely during an emergency midnight meeting, "Emeka has been systematically embezzling company funds for at least 3 years. We estimate over 35 million naira stolen through elaborate schemes." Chidi, who'd been quietly supporting his wife through this nightmare, spoke up with sudden understanding. That's why he needed leverage over vulnerable employees. They were knowingly processed his fraudulent transactions. When they started asking innocent questions, he threatened them into silence or forced them out before they could expose him. "Ngozi," Amara asked gently, "did Emeka ever make you sign official documents? Papers you maybe didn't fully understand?" Ngozi nodded miserably. "Yes, ma. Many times. He said not just normal paperwork for household things. I signed because I did very fear him. I know read English well, so I just signed where he points." The attorney pulled up scanned documents on his laptop. "These aren't household paperwork. These are official approval forms for vendor payments. Every single one going to completely fake companies that don't actually exist. Ngozi's signature authorized millions of naira in fraudulent transfers." He was deliberately setting her up, Chidi realized with growing horror. If the fraud was ever discovered by auditors, Ngozi would be the foreperson. Her signatures are everywhere while Emeka's hands stay clean. Amara's rage crystallized into absolutely cold, calculated determination. "Get me everything. Every document, every transaction record, every victim willing to testify publicly. Build a case so airtight that no lawyer in Nigeria can break it. I want Emeka Uchenna completely destroyed." The emergency board meeting happened within 48 intense hours. Amara presented everything methodically: police reports, digital forensic evidence, detailed financial analysis, powerful testimony from 2 previous victims who'd found courage to come forward, and Ngozi's first-hand account. Emeka sat at the conference table's far end, his expensive agbada and carefully practiced confidence failing completely to mask the growing panic in his eyes. "This is absolutely ridiculous," he said, his voice betraying slight tremors. "Amara, we've been successful partners for 8 years. You're going to believe a housemate's word over mine? Explain this." Amara pulled up devastating financial records on the screen. 35 million naira in clearly fraudulent transfers over 3 years. Shell companies traced directly to offshore accounts. Fake contracts, unauthorized HR file accesses specifically targeting vulnerable women who left suddenly. Emeka's face cycled rapidly through denial, anger, and fear. "I can explain these financial irregularities. Market conditions required creative solutions. Is that what you call systematic theft and sexual assault?" Another board member interrupted coldly. "There was absolutely no assault. If anything happened with any employee, it was completely consensual." "I no consent."
Nogosi stood suddenly, trembling but determined. Madam, I asked her if she want to attend, and Nogosi insisted on facing her abuser directly. You force me every time. You threaten me say you could destroy my life. You make me sign paper where I no understand. You tell me say nobody will ever believe me because I did just house girl. You very wrong. Madam, believe me. All these people believe me now.
The conference room fell into heavy silence. Emeka's carefully constructed mask finally shattered completely, revealing the entitled monster beneath. You want the real truth? I built this company alongside you. My work, my strategic connections, my operational expertise. But you took all the public credit, all the glory. So, yes, I moved some money to where it would be properly appreciated. And yes, I enjoyed company of women who actually showed me respect and gratitude. You just confessed to embezzlement and assault in front of 12 witnesses and multiple recording devices, Amara said with dangerous quiet. The board vote was completely unanimous. Emeka Uchenna was removed immediately as COO. His substantial shares forcibly bought out at a small fraction of their market value, per the company's strict misconduct clause, a clause Amara had insisted on implementing years ago over his vocal objections. Criminal charges would follow swiftly. His sterling reputation would be utterly destroyed. His family would learn everything. As corporate security firmly escorted him from the building, Emeka stopped at the boardroom door. You regret this decision, Amara. I know secrets that could destroy. Destroy what? Me? Amara smiled coldly. I built this entire company from absolutely nothing, from a tiny chemist shop in Surulere. I survived investors who said women couldn't lead tech companies. I survived market crashes and hostile takeover attempts. You think I can't survive whatever pathetic lies you want to spread? Go ahead and try. I'll still be standing here, and you will be in Kirikiri prison. 6 months later, Amara stood in the cheerful nursery of Ngozi's new apartment in a safe Lekki neighborhood, helping assemble a baby crib, while Chidi cursed creatively at incomprehensible Swedish instructions. Ngozi laughed genuinely from the doorway, her belly now prominently rounded, due in just 6 weeks. Ngozi had decided to keep her baby after intensive counseling. With therapy, unwavering support, and knowing she'd never face Emeka again, he was awaiting trial in Kirikiri maximum security prison. Amara had kept every single promise. All medical expenses covered, substantial education fund established, and an excellent job arranged at a respected partner company once Ngozi was ready to return to work. Not housekeeping. Ngozi had discovered genuine talents for social media marketing after completing online courses Amara had encouraged. Madam, when I first come Lagos from village, I think all rich people na the same, only care about money and big cars, not about people like me. Amara looked up from the frustrating crib assembly. And now? Now I know say some people get very good hearts. You and Dogachidi, una truly saved my life. Una make me believe say I actually worthy of respect and protection. You saved yourself, Amara said with absolute firmness. You found the courage to speak your truth when staying silent would have been easier. That's entirely you, Ngozi. 3 months after that, Amara made national headlines again, but not for stock prices or product launches. She announced the Amara Okonkwo Justice Foundation, dedicated to supporting vulnerable domestic workers throughout Nigeria. Workers would receive completely free legal support, financial literacy training, and a 24-hour hotline to report abuse without any fear. The foundation would provide emergency housing, comprehensive job training, and legal assistance. Initial endowment, 5 billion naira. At the press conference, Amara spoke with clarity about systemic failures. This foundation exists because someone I trusted betrayed not just me, but someone under my protection. I can't undo the past, but I can ensure other workers have resources and protection. 1 year after discovering Chidi and Ngozi in her bedroom, Amara sat in her office overlooking Lagos's glittering skyline. Her company had thrived remarkably. Her marriage had emerged stronger. Ngozi was flourishing, working part-time while raising baby Amara, named after her savior. Emeka was serving 15 years in prison. The billionaire who had returned home unexpectedly had discovered something more shocking than betrayal. She discovered that sometimes trusted people are heroes in disguise, that vulnerability can coexist with strength, and the greatest legacy isn't measured in money, but in transformed lives. She'd been tested, betrayed, and nearly destroyed, but she survived, fought back brilliantly, and transformed devastating pain into powerful purpose. And that was the greatest victory of all. What did you think of Amara's journey from betrayal to justice? Did she handle it right? Drop your thoughts below and tell me where you are watching from. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Share this with someone who needs to know they can overcome any betrayal.